Hello everyone, today is another one of my videos in my college dorm series. I'm not sure what order these are going to be uploaded in, so if you haven't heard that yet, this is possibly the first one uploaded. If you have, sorry, bear with me. Today we're going to be looking at this MacBook, polycarbonate MacBook that we're seeing right in front of you here. If we take a look down at the trackpad, you can see that it is a non-unibody model. My camera autofocus will work. This is going to be one of the last ones that they made before the switch to the unibody models. This particular one here is a T8100 based Intel Core 2 Duo running at 2.1 gigahertz. I'm going to go ahead and boot it up here, and we'll just see about how long that takes. So if we go ahead here, and 3, 2, 1. Now that noise you hear when it first is coming up, that's obviously going to be the optical drive, and it is a little noisy. However, all of these that I've owned have done that. It seems to be pretty normal. It's just the mechanism of the drive. If we're looking here, we're at about 20 seconds so far, 25 rather, coming up on 30. Alright, so we were at probably about 50 seconds or so. So it is a little bit of a slow boot up. However, let me go ahead and reposition this here. I'm trying to get this in the frame. I would do a screen recording for what I'm about to show you, but I'm afraid that if I were to do that, it would bog down the performance, especially for some of the tests we're going to do. So what you'll see over here is I have some software installers on the desktop, as well as the Mac OS 10.7 Lion Updates Disk DMG, which I'll have covered in another video if you want to get a copy of that. But today we're going to be talking about the usability in 2016. So real quick, I just want to right off the bat show you the specs of this particular machine. So it's probably a little bit hard here, but if we take a look, you can see it's a 2.1 gigahertz Intel Core 2 Duo, and we have 4 gigabytes of 666 megahertz DDR2 SD RAM. That was upgraded. I believe this particular one here came with 2 gigs from the factory. And then if we take a look, we also have its Intel GMA X3100, and it's got 144 megabytes of dedicated video RAM. And then you can see we're running macOS Lion 10.7.5. If we take a look, the display on this one is going to be a little bit low in resolution compared to what you see today, 1280 by 800. However, many budget laptops still run displays right around that resolution, so really it's not too bad. And it's hard to tell in this video, but the color production on here is actually really good. It looks very nice in person. Then if we go to storage, this particular one, you can hear the DVD drive kind of whine over there a little bit. This particular one has a 120 gig drive. I believe it's a Fujitsu drive. And then you can also see this particular optical drive is a combo drive. So since this particular model isn't equipped with a super drive, there are some limitations with that. As you can see here, the only disk formats that can actually be written by this computer are CD-R and CD-RW. If you have a super drive model, you'll also be able to burn DVD-Rs, DVD-RWs, and possibly CD+R and DVD+R. I'm not 100% sure on that though. And then if we take a look at the memory, it shows we have two 2 gigabyte sticks, one in each memory slot, and they are both at 666 megahertz, and that's DDR2. If we go take a quick look at the system report, I'm very pleased to say that the actual battery that this one has, it's almost full actually. It's got about 26 minutes till it's full. I can see what percentage it's at. We'll do that here, 86%. And if I actually pull the MagSafe cord off, we'll let this calculate for a second, the time remaining. We'll come back to that. If we take a look at the power here, we only have 120 charge cycles on this battery, and it says it's in normal condition. If we go over here, it's still calculating the time remaining, but I've seen that this particular one actually gets really good battery life. Now, that's definitely not something to be expected with these. Most of these are, you know, actually, I guess all of them are going on 10 years old now. They're a bit over 9 years. Actually, right under 10. I believe these are early 2008s. Now, this battery is reporting that it has 6 hours and 5 minutes remaining at 86%. I think that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I am going to leave this off the charger for the rest of the video, and we'll see what it's showing. As you can see right now, it's actually 11:03 p.m. When I'm filming this, so we'll see how much time has passed and what the battery's reading when we're done with this video. So if we take a look here, that SATA drive, yeah, it's a Fujitsu drive, which for me has been one of the most reliable ones in these. I just found out, actually, I think it's right here. No, that's not it. I found out Apple actually sourced some Seagate branded hard drives for similar models, which I didn't know. They've also used Toshiba's. As you can see here, this is a, what is that, a 60 gigabyte? It's an 80 gigabyte Toshiba drive. Toshiba drives I haven't had great luck with. This one here still works, no problem. If we take a look over here, here's one of those Seagate branded drives, which I had never seen before. If I can get this to focus. There we go. So I thought that was interesting, but I digress. If we take a look here, that's pretty much the main things. Now, the one limitation I want to point out right off the bat is with USB. So it's going to be USB 2.0, which is still plenty fast for basic file transfers, this and that. But if you are going to be transferring a lot of data to or from the machine, that is definitely going to be something you're going to be bottlenecked by. One other potential limitation besides USB 2.0 is going to be networking. So Wi-Fi wise, it's going to be supporting BGN, so you're not going to have wireless AC or any newer technologies. But again, for most reasonable uses, I mean, you'll be fine. So if we take a look here, other than Wi-Fi, you're obviously going to have your Ethernet port, which is going to be a gigabit port, so that's good there. The other thing is going to be you can actually run networking over FireWire. In this case, I'm not doing that. I'm just using Wi-Fi, and then of course you've got Bluetooth and whatnot. If your model comes equipped with Bluetooth, however, I believe anything after 2007 does, and possibly some of the 2006s. That I'm not 100% sure. But if we go on, move past the hardware specs now, go ahead and close all this out. These are great for basic internet usage. So if we go now, they do support an older version of Safari, which I don't recommend because it's very outdated. Most things kind of complain about it. They do also support Google Chrome. Now, this is also going to be an older version, and Chrome is sure to tell you that. So when you first open it up here, you can see at the top, this computer will no longer receive Google Chrome updates because macOS 10.6, 10.7, and 10.8 no longer support it. Now, MacBooks like these can run higher operating systems than 10.7. However, it requires a tool which basically modifies the installation. And there are other problems with that. Depending on the model, you could lose what's called graphics acceleration, so you're going to have poorer system performance there. Plus, it's very buggy because it's not officially supported, and as such, Apple is not going to give you any assistance with that. Now, disregarding that and the fact that Chrome is not set as my default browser, which we'll talk to you about in a moment, if we take a look here about Google Chrome, the latest version they had available is going to be 49.0. So this is an older version. It's not completely outdated. It's still fairly usable. However, you are going to be missing some security fixes. Now, unfortunately, the same thing is true with Firefox. However, I've noticed that Firefox seems to run a lot smoother and tends to load a lot faster. As you can see there, how long it took for Chrome to open versus Firefox. I definitely recommend using Firefox. I'm going to go ahead and quit out of this here. Now, let's say you want to watch an HD video online. We'll go to YouTube here. Oops, can't type today. Let's see if we pull up YouTube. And we'll just pull up, I don't know, find a Google commercial. Here we go. And we'll try it a few different resolutions and see how it works. We can also try, we'll watch the Google Pixel 2 commercial, why not? So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to pause this. If we go to our settings here, right now it's actually running at 1080p. I'm going to change that to 480 and we're going to go full screen. So let's take a look, see how it plays.
What is that? The Google Pixel 2. What can it do? A lot. Can it tell me what to do? Yes, now. And the fastest way there? Yep. Can it tell me my bike code? 10, 4, 17. Can it tell me if I need an umbrella? Yes. Rain is expected. She's right. What if I forget it? A bit of water.
So we watched about 15 seconds there. You can see that at 480p, everything is running perfectly smoothly. Now, if we bump that up to 720p, which you're going to start getting a high definition. Now, 720p is going to be able to play natively on the screen. However, 1080 will not. Now, it's definitely still going to look better than 720, but I do want to let you know about that. Obviously, since the resolution of the panel is not 1080p, that is going to be one restriction. Now, if we just take a look here.
What is that?
The Google Pixel 2. What can it do? A lot.
Can it tell me what to do?
Yes, now.
And the fastest way there?
Yep.
Can it tell me my bike code? 10, 4, 17. Can it tell me if I need an umbrella?
Yes.
Rain is expected.
She's right. What if I forget it? A bit of water's all right. Really?
Alright, we can see that the same thing in about 15 seconds of video there. It is no problem whatsoever with 720p. Let's kick it up a notch and go to 1080. It's going to take a second to buffer here. Thankfully, my internet connection is pretty good. Here we go. Whoops.
What is that?
The Google Pixel 2. What can it do? A lot.
Can it tell me what to do?
Yes, now.
And the fastest way there?
Yep.
Can it tell me my bike code? 10, 4, 17. Can it tell me if I need an umbrella?
Yes.
Rain is expected.
She's right. What if I forget it? A bit of water's all right. Really?
Can you take a selfie? Just
Now you can see there is a slight bit of stutter with the video there. Now, thankfully, it's not a whole lot. I'd say that that's very watchable. I would have no problem watching something like that. Besides that, so that's going to be one of the most intensive things you're going to be able to do online with one of these. Since we're able to watch YouTube videos and even 1080p with pretty good results, I would say that that's a pretty good testament to these machines being still very, very usable, even almost 10 years later. Now, the other option, and this would potentially allow you to do pretty much anything on it without restrictions in terms of age of software, would be you could always use Boot Camp Assistant and actually install Windows 10 on one of these. And since Windows 10 is going to be the latest and greatest for Microsoft, well, at least what they say is the latest and greatest, you're going to be able to actually install the latest version of Chrome or Firefox. You could even get the latest version of Safari for PC if you wanted. You're not going to be limited in terms of the age of software you have to install. The other thing with that is going to be you're free to do some very light gaming. Now, when I say very light gaming, I really truly mean that. With having only 144 megabytes of dedicated video RAM and Intel integrated graphics, as well as in mobile Core 2 Duo, you're not going to be able to play the best games. But typically, if you're buying a almost 10-year-old MacBook, you're pretty much assuming that it's not going to play games well. Again, some basic games will play, no question, but you can't really expect anything too serious. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is OpenOffice. So, Microsoft Office is still going to be available for these. However, I believe they've dropped support for macOS Lion. So, you're not going to be able to get the latest versions. I believe Office 2011 will run on these, but good luck getting a copy legitimately. So, what I recommend is OpenOffice. In this case, OpenOffice 4, the latest version of OpenOffice 4, latest updates, are still available for macOS Lion. So if you want to go ahead and make, say, a text document, a spreadsheet presentation, whatever you want to do, you are free to do now. It does take a second there. You can see a little bit of lag, but if we open this up, it can be super cliche here. And I can actually type now. But, I mean, it's your basic word processor. It looks a lot like Microsoft Office 98 and like Office 2003. But it works. You know, I mean, it's nothing particularly fancy, but it works. And it's free, so that's great too. Now, if you are going to be buying one of these machines, you should definitely understand that there are limitations. And it's not going to be an instant boot up. Like you saw there, it took just under a minute to actually boot up. Now, part of the reason for this, besides having older, slower RAM and an older, slower processor, is the fact that these are going to be using, like I showed, these traditional style hard drives that in most cases are going to be operating at SATA 1 speeds, which is going to be 1.5 gigabits per second, which sounds good, but comparatively to the SSDs we have today, or even the 7200 RPM SATA 3 hard drives, is fairly slow in comparison. So if you are going to buy one of these, just be aware that they're not a speed demon. And, I mean, really, you have to understand that there are limitations. Now, I promised we would check on the battery. And if we go here, now it does say significantly less from the over 6 hours it was saying before, but it does say about 4 hours. My guess is we'll actually get about 2 to 3. The other thing is, when you're buying one of these machines, there are a few very common failures with them. Now, luckily, these, for the most part, are just cosmetic. So if we take a look at this particular example of a machine, it's actually in pretty good shape. Now, if we look down here specifically, one thing you'll notice is that the keyboard edge is actually pretty darn good. It's actually perfect on this machine. There's no chipping. You can see it's raised a little bit here on the edge, but there's no chipping or anything like that. If we go around here, I would just give you a quick overview of all of the connections. So, you can see starting from left to right, there's the MagSafe 1 charger. These are going to natively use a 60 watt, however they can use the 85, and they'll only draw 60 watts as needed. Next to that's going to be your gigabit Ethernet port. Then you have a mini DVI port. After that, you've got a FireWire 400 port. Then there's going to be two USB 2.0s. Then there's going to be the video output port. This is actually pretty interesting. You can actually hook up a cable and get an RCA output. Then you've got your headphone/microphone, and then a Kensington lock port. And then these over here, those are two screws that keep the top keyboard and wrist rest screwed in and attached. And then if we take a look at the other side, you're going to have, again, two screws there. Actually, I guess we'll start with the front. On the front, on the left, you've got your sleep and wake light. So if we actually close the machine, you'll see it goes on, indicating it's in sleep mode, and it kind of fades in and out. Then, right next to that is the infrared receiver. So if you have an infrared remote or something like that, you can potentially use it with your MacBook. Then, right over here, you're going to have two more screws. And then you've got, in this case, the combo drive. In some cases, like I said, you might have a super drive. That is something to consider when buying one of these. Finally, on the back, you've got a screw, a vent, another screw. Then you've got what's called the clutch cover, which happens to be more venting. Then you have a screw, another vent, and another screw. What I would recommend if you're considering buying one of these 2007 or 2008 model MacBooks is to just simply understand that there are limitations and understand what those limitations are, and as well with upgrading them. They for sure officially support up to 4 gigabytes of RAM. There may be unofficial support for like 6 gigabytes. I know these can't go up to 8. Now the Unibody ones that started in 2009, those actually can accept 8 gigabytes of RAM. And hopefully I'll have one of those to show you guys soon, hopefully later this week. At this point, if you guys have any other questions or would like to see anything else with this machine or these type of machines, just drop a comment or send me a personal message and let me know, and I'd be glad to fulfill those requests for you guys.